Good morning. How are you doing? Good. Okay, so I thank you so much for having me back. My heart is wide open today, and I'm just so grateful for this community. So I wanted to start with gratitude for having me back. I love this community, and if you remember last time I was here, the talks that I do are usually a dialogue, so I'm going to have you participate because this is your life too, right? It's not about me, this is about you. So everyone should have a white card and a blue card. Yes? And then a writing utensil, if you don't have one in your hand, raise your hand and someone will bring it to you. Everyone's got one. Good job, you guys. Thank you. So last time I was here, I was talking about legacy. So today's talk topic is about being a source of a transformed world. This is right up our alley, right? The daily word was picked today. It's beautifully suited for our talk. And I went and I circled it, the parts that I thought was, wow, this is really speaking to me. That in terms of transformation, it says the way of spirit is the way of release and transformation. Release and transformation. You got to let it go in order to transform, right? It also says that your whole life is transformed as you let the Spirit of God direct you, which means, guess what? You're not doing it alone. It's a partnership. It's a co-creation, which is a beautiful thing because if I've got to do it myself, help me, help us all, right? So I'm just going to affirm right now, I'm not in charge. God is. And I say this at every talk. I've got my talk planned. It's enough to probably cover 2 hours. So there's enough material here, and I'm going to allow Spirit to direct me. I'm looking at the time because I've got to keep a time on myself. So, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. And I find this really kind of apropos because that's the opening quote that I wanted to start with, and it's right in the daily prayer. We're divinely guided. We're here together for a specific reason, purpose, and we're here in exchange. So, source of a transformed world. So I'm going to invite you into shifting the way of thinking. So transformation is all about aligning our thoughts, our attitudes, our actions with God truth. And rather than conforming to the values of our culture, we're going to look at truth itself. Now, I know that we have some long-time truth students in here. So I'm going to ask you, here's the pop quiz, what's the difference between reality and truth? Go ahead and shout it out. We're all family here. It's fine. Belief, yes. So what's reality and what's truth? Huh? Yes. Yes, so I'm gonna shorten this because otherwise we would be here till 4 o'clock, which is kind of fun. Let's do that sometime. So reality is where we're living right here, our physical essence, our beingness, right? The reality is we're here, we have bills, right? We gotta put a roof over our head, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we need shelter, we have relationships with people. That's the reality of the situation. Sometimes we have trouble making ends meet. Sometimes we got to help another person. Sometimes another person needs healing, and we're there for them, right? So then in terms of truth, we're truth students, right, in this room. What does truth mean? Yeah, the absolute essence of who we are. So it's not necessarily reality, but it is the truth of who we are. And that takes me to Teilhard de Chardin's quote of us being spiritual beings living a human experience. So I'm going to invite you into shifting your thought to having double lenses, those bifocals that we all use. So you can see close, you can see far. You can get that this is reality, but we are so much more than our reality, right? So reality, I'm just going to look at my notes now. Reality is the situations and the circumstances of our everyday life. We're identified with being human, right? That's our identity. We're human. And we have human, part of being human is to have the human condition, and sometimes we have these experiences that are for us, we don't know it, and you know, the back and forthness, right? And then there's the truth. That's our spiritual identity. So in whatever you're going through, if you can remember that's your spiritual identity, that will save your tushy. Because then you don't go off and spew on someone else, shadow on somebody else, right? So I was with Nancy and Chris last night because I stayed at their place. We had these great conversations. And then I shared with them, hey, this whole healing thing that Myrtle's talking about, Myrtle Fillmore is the co-founder of Unity, for anyone who's relatively new. She's this healing journey of healing herself from TB. And she did it in prayer and meditation. And what dawned on me is her healing journey is her ability to shift from reality, her human identity, to her spiritual identity. So that's the journey home to ourselves. That's healing. When we say healing in our language here, we're talking about, hey, let's come back to the truth of who we are. Forget about reality, because these things change, they morph, they're there. Our reality is a platform. It really is. Think about this. Our reality is a platform for us to return to the truth of our being. Does that land for anybody? Does anyone get that? Like, so if I'm having a problem with you and I get to take a look at that, it's like, okay, well, what is the truth of my being saying about this problem? So just hold that context, because we haven't even started our talk. It's kind of fun. So I decided I'm just going to have fun when I'm at these talks. So we're in for some fun. So you have cards. I'm going to share with you just some quotes. Eric Butterworth says, so this is all about consciousness, right? When you change your consciousness about yourself and your relationship to life, the healing process begins. When you change your consciousness rather, about yourself and your relationship to life, the healing process begins. Now remember, we're defining healing as coming to the truth of your being. Not your human identity, but your spiritual identity. And by the way, does anybody not know who Eric Butterworth is? Go ahead, it's okay, raise your hand, it's fine. Okay, great, thank you. So Eric Butterworth is a longtime Unity minister. He's out of New York. You know, back in the day, I don't know, 30s, 40s, but he had this huge church. And when I was in ministerial school, how many times did I lose my God? I don't even know. And my teachers couldn't bring me back. Prayer couldn't bring me back. But he brought me back because I studied his work. Fascinating. And it's rocket fuel, okay? So Myrtle says, I'm a child of God, and therefore... Yes, all that. Because how do you get sick when you're in the truth of your being? Your spiritual essence, or one with God, is God's seed, right? So on your piece of paper, before I forget, any one of them, the blue one or the white one, write down the word God seed. Just write it down. It called to me this morning. I forgot to write it in my notes, so I'm going to have you do it before I forget. It's very elusive. So Einstein believed that everything in the universe, including our bodies, is made of energy. And he understood that energy and matter are interchangeable, right? You know, everyone knows the equation E equals mc squared. So Einstein theorized that illness and disease are caused by the disruptions in our energetic field, in our energy. There's patterns in our body. So restoring balance to these energy patterns could potentially heal the body. So now we're kind of meshing the two, going from our spiritual, because we can't be in our heads and have this theory without demonstrating and manifesting in our life. Because if we do that, we're not in integrity. We're not practicing the fifth principle, which is to take it out into the world and to live the truth that we know, right? You guys doing okay? Okay, good. All right, so we're going to look today at how we are the source, how we stand as the source of a transformed world. And so the blue paper, you have lines on one side. So go ahead and write the word source going downward, S-O-U-R-C-E. Go ahead and write that down. Leave a little space for maybe one word, and then you can do whatever else you need to do with it. The white piece of paper is simply for your notes. So if something bubbles up and there's a spark. Write it down, because when the still small voice talks and you don't get it, it goes away. It's very elusive. Very, very elusive. So I'm going to talk fast because we have a time. I'm sure you guys want to go to lunch. But this is really important stuff, and I think that this would really serve you in terms of how you show up as the source of transformation, right? So what does it take to be the source of a transformed world? Because if we look at source, we're thinking, okay, well, what does source mean? We are the creators of our world, in essence. It comes in me, through me, as me. All these words sound very familiar, right? We are the person, the soul, the entity that is inhabiting this body. And so we have this big privilege, this huge privilege. It's a present. We get to live this life. And guess what? It's short. I mean, sometimes we think it drags on, but it is a short life, right? And we know that nothing gets to happen out there if it doesn't happen inside. Life is lived from the inside out, right? So whatever step that you're in life right now, know that you are the source of however your reality shows up. You are the source of however your reality shows up. Good, bad, indifferent, abundance, scarcity, lack, loving, despising, jealousy, all of that. And you get to be with that and be okay with it, because that's part of our human nature. So I'm going to have you freeze frame your life right now. Just freeze frame your life exactly where it is. So go through your mind. I'm X years old. This is where I live. My family is this. You can do that pretty quickly in your mind, right? All the experiences that you have, how you're feeling right now, you're the source of those experiences. And there is a grace that runs through our cells that calls you higher all the time, despite wherever you are. Right? If you're suffering, if you're going through something, there is a grace that's speaking to you. And so the question is, are you open and receptive to hearing it when it comes and knocks on your door, knocks on your consciousness? So I'm going to get to the next part, but in the context of this talk of source, I want you to look at how am I being source for my own life, in my personal life right now? And also consider, how am I being source in community? Because we come together in community. Some of us come together because we love this community. We want to support it. We want to see these ideas grow. And some of us come together in community because we don't want to be alone. That's fine too. We invite all situations, all kinds. We're inclusive. But this is just an inquiry for you to take with you as you go about your day. No one gets to read your blue card. That's yours to keep, so don't worry about accuracy. This is for you, and it's time to be honest, right? So let's go to the first slide of the S. So S is for silence, of course. That's our foundation. I think it's even in the core values here. So the question is, how do you recharge? Fillmore says, be still and turn within to the great source in his book, Prosperity, Spiritual Secrets of an Abundant Life. The silence is a state of consciousness aimed at connecting divine mind and listening to the still small voice. So the practice of silence allows us to calm our human mind. A lot of practices call it the monkey mind, right? We're talking about the brain is what we're talking about when we say human mind, not the capital M mind. So in the space of meditation and silence, we're sort of opening our energetic field, getting still and receiving guidance. We're plugging in to source, right? Source energy, but we've got to make space for it. So we got to empty our mind, breathe, get out of our head, get out of our body, and just be an open field. It involves turning inward, away from distractions, so that you can have some sort of receptivity, become an open vessel for it. Bertel says that to be in the silence is to be in healing, transformation, and connection with God. So on that blue piece of paper under your S, write down silence and then rate yourself, 1 to 10. How are you doing with your silence? Do you have a spiritual practice where you're in the silence? 0 or 1 is no, and 10 is I'm an hour or greater. Just be honest with yourself. It's great. I wrote this note. This is really great. Okay, so this is going to move kind of quickly, but this is really important. So why do we sit in the silence? Why do we do this, right? So the silence is where you go to heal. But you got to be quiet to get to that healing spot, right? You got to calm and quiet the monkey mind. And some of us know this, that the practice of yoga or movement is to get out of your head and into your body. Yoga is the practice to get you ready for meditation. So if you know, this stretching, it's just getting quiet, right? So the silence to the Fillmores is the fountain of spiritual truth, because they taught us this. It's ever flowing. It's the divine resource in each person. This is your space. If you're feeling out of sorts, if you're feeling misaligned, this is where you get your wisdom, your life, your healing. Because now there's a direct connection with you and God essence. So he teaches us to turn inward to drink from this fountain. I mean, this was written at the turn of the century, right? So the language is back then. Allowing us to refresh and be guided, because we all have that divine God seed within us. And we get together, we get ourselves together through truth principles and divine law, not social media, not what our friends say, not what our family says, none of that. This is divine law, and we all have this within. We just get to be still enough to hear it. And this truth is in every single one of us. We can access it, we can experience it through conscious, consistent spiritual practice. So that's the S. I'm going to go to the O. O is for observation. And this is to watch, just to watch, the awareness, to see the pattern within you. Pema Chodron, who is a Buddhist American monk, says, when we meditate, we learn to observe. So you're just looking. You're looking to see what's happening in the monkey mind. She says, when we practice, we strengthen our ability to be steadfast in ourselves. No matter what comes up, lust, jealousy, hatred, fear, we can look clearly without getting caught in its energy. Because there's this stuff that happens, that's not the truth of your being. Don't get caught up with it, right? So, in essence, you've got to recognize it in order to heal it. If you don't see the pattern, you can't do anything with it. It's just like saying, I don't know what my choices are. Well, then you don't have any choices. You just get to choose or not choose based on what is given to you. So having the awareness, opening up to it is really important. Eckhart Tolle on awareness. This is really deep. I love this. He says, to recognize one's own insanity is the arising of sanity, the beginning of healing and transcendence. To recognize one's own insanity is the arising of sanity, the beginning of healing and transcendence. So when you can observe the dysfunction, you're already arising above it. So here's the question. When was the last time this happened for you? That you had the awareness that, oh, I probably shouldn't be insane? Right. So no judgment, no reactivity. Yeah, exactly. Because we get caught up. We're human. That's part of our human condition. But to know that that's part of our human condition allows us to have self-compassion. And we treat each other different. We treat ourselves different, first of all. Can't give, what was the last talk that I did? You can't give what you don't have, right? So if you have self-compassion for you, then for yourself, for myself, then I can have self-compassion for another person because I get it. I get it. It's a struggle sometimes. But that's the human condition. So then you don't work under your RAS, reticular activating system. That reptilian brain of yours aren't fired on all engines, and you're not reacting because someone said something that, maybe caused a wound somewhere. So rate yourself on observation. Where are you? 1 to 10. Nobody's going to see it, so this is just for your own assessment. U is for understanding. And this is right understanding. So we're talking about source and the idea of understanding. So what does that mean? Okay, everybody's still writing, so I'm just going to go because, again, looking at the time. I'm going to just share with you Byron Katie's work. Anyone familiar with Byron Katie? Yes? Okay, she's a brilliant woman. Her definition of understanding is cognitive comprehension, insight, awareness, interpretation, analysis, empathy, and emotional intelligence. So she has 4 questions. You guys get to do homework and research this if you want to know more about it. But the 4 questions, when something comes up that irks you, you want to ask, is this true? Can you know that it's absolutely true? And how do you react with what happens if you believe that thought, right? And then who would you be without that thought? Just let it go and see what happens. So understandings shift. And as brain science would have it, all perception is misperception because we only have access to 5% of our conscious brain. So the 95%, it's all automatic, it's all in the background. It's all circumstances, situations, and trauma in your body. Scary, isn't it? Like you think, I'm fully awake today. You're fully awake in that 5%. Right, so the more we plug into the silence, the greater our capacity to be centered and to be in the truth of our being rather than the reality of our being. Okay, rate yourself. Are you seeing the forest from the trees? Where are you in your understanding of 1 to 10? How triggerable are you? Is that a word? Triggerable? You know what I'm saying, right? And how are you the source of that? How are you being sourced? Whether it's in your own personal life or in community. Because we're talking about the source of a transformed world. Are you inching forward to be the source, or are you saying, I'm here. I'm totally, doing my work. Head down, do my work. Okay, R is for responsibility. Ownership, accountability. We all know what responsibilities are. We have cars, we have car payments, we have mortgages, we have children, grandchildren, we're responsible. So the question for you is, do you own your life? Do you own your life? How responsible are you in being the source of your own creation, your own experience in life? Or do you come at it like, okay, I'm a victim here because we tell our stories, and the way we tell our stories will locate where we are. Are we victimy, or are we standing as source for transformation? Fillmore says thoughts are things, right? Thoughts are formative, and that's our power. That's the power within us. So when we recognize and use that power to create positive outcomes in life, things change for us. It's our responsibility as truth students to align our thoughts and our actions with divine principles. Because that's what it means to be in practice. That's what it means to be source. If we're here talking about this week after week and we're not practicing it during the weekday, what hope is there for humanity? Right? Or if we're just here listening and, it's a great talk, bye, and we forget and we're not in practice, then we're not really taking responsibility. So rate yourself. Commitment. C is for commitment. You got 2 more, you guys. What level of commitment do you have for yourself? I looked at commitment and I'm like, that could be choice or consciousness. But here's the question of being a source for a transformed world. How committed are you? So this is a really good context to talk about dating, which is a casual relationship, versus a committed, loving marriage, right? 2 different things. So if you take that in the context of being source of a transformed world, are you still dabbling? Are you thinking about it? I'm here, but I'm not here. I've been in unity for 20 years, but I'm not really committed. I'm still kind of dating because I'm not sure. And how do you know you're sure? You're practicing the principles. You know the 5 principles. You're being a change agent. You're standing in your truth. You're in the silence. You're in the practice. So Thich Nhat Hanh, who's a Buddhist monk, he just passed away recently. He says, when you love someone, the best thing you can offer is your presence, the commitment of presence. How can you love if you're not there? How can you love if you're not there? You love God with your whole heart. Are you there? Are you present? You love your people, your children, grandchildren. How do you love if you're not present? How do you love when you're not committed? So this applies in relationships. Yeah, with each other, but more importantly to yourself. To yourself. How committed are you to yourself as being the source of a transformed world? Pema, again, children. She says, the most fundamental aggression to ourselves, the most fundamental harm we can do to ourselves is to remain ignorant. By not having the courage and the respect to look at ourselves honestly and gently. Honestly and gently. So rate yourself. Where are you in your level of commitment to being the source of a transformed world? Are you dating? Are you married? The 0-1 is the dating, and the 10 is the marriage. You guys doing okay? All right, good, because I know things are processing. It's cool. E is for evolution, to evolve. Evolve. So you want to look at your personal evolution. Just where you are. Think back 30 years ago. That was 1994. Where were you in 94? What were you doing? Where was your level of consciousness? Exactly. We can do this quick, right? In 2 seconds. 20 years ago, that's 2004. How old were you? Where were you in your consciousness? Where did you live physically? How were you being source of transformation? 10 years ago? 5 years ago? Last year? Just look through the timeline of your own life. Who were you? Who are you now? Because this is a choice point. This is the present moment. The only moment that really, really matters. Because you can't make a choice in the past. It's already past. Well, maybe you can jump a timeline, but we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about here, in this timeline. Are you engaged to evolve? Are you ready to be source of transformation, to take responsibility for your life? I mean, are you thinking, I don't know, I got to think about whether I want to be engaged in my own life right now? It's an invitation. So in that thought, rate yourself. Where are you in your evolutionary process and commitment to being source of a transformed world? How are you evolving? In James 2:26, the scripture says, faith without works is dead. That's also our fifth unity principle, right? So like we're learning things, this movement is a lot of times very heady, and then we get to embody it, and then we get to utilize our heart to integrate it into our being, and that's all fine and dandy if it stays right here, but it would be really, really much better if you take it out into the world and affect change. But you got to start with yourself, right? You got to start with yourself. So curiosity questions right now. Take a breath, everybody. I know, that was such a long, deep talk. Seriously, that's a workshop. Curiosity questions. What am I feeling? Like right now, how are you feeling? And if there's like a stirring within, you got to ask yourself, what emotions are not being met at this moment? And who do I get to be to truly show up for myself, for this remaining time that I have on earth, for myself, for my family, for my community, for the world? It doesn't matter what they're doing. It starts right here. This is the only kind of space that you have affecting. Like, it doesn't matter what the future is holding. The only time that matters is the present. It doesn't matter what the outside world is doing. The only thing that you can control right now is from the inside out. You got to make that decision. Hi, welcome.
I lost my family.
I'm going to see her find her family. Maybe it's here. She doesn't know it. Right? So how do you get to truly show up? And how do you get to shift? Because we all have that shiftability, the mindset shift. We change our mind. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. So I'm going to end today with a quote, and you don't need to do the next screen because, oh, there it is. There it is. I didn't know I put it up. Here's a quote from Rumi. Yesterday I was clever and I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise and changing myself. It begins with us.